It was a humid Thursday evening in late July, and I found myself wedged between a sticky cocktail table and a stranger's elbow at a rooftop bar in downtown Austin. The air was thick with the smell of craft beer and expensive perfume, and the city lights flickered below like 1,000 tiny promises. I was there to observe, to study, to try to understand the invisible dance that was happening all around me. And then I saw him. He must have been in his late 50s, maybe early 60s. Silver hair, cut short and neat. A simple, well-fitted navy blazer. He wasn't the loudest man in the room, not by a long shot. He wasn't the best looking, either. But there was something about the way he carried himself that was utterly magnetic. He leaned against the railing, a glass of amber liquid in his hand, not scanning the room like a predator, not checking his phone every 30 seconds, not nervously adjusting his collar. He was simply there, present, complete. And then she appeared, a woman who couldn't have been more than 30. She was stunning, the kind of stunning that makes other women glance twice and men forget their own names. She walked past him, then paused. She didn't say anything at first. She just looked at him. He didn't flinch. He didn't rush to fill the silence with a clever pickup line. He just met her gaze, offered a slight, almost imperceptible nod, and smiled. Not a salesman's smile, not a desperate smile, a calm, knowing smile. The kind of smile that says, "I see you. I'm not threatened by you, and I'm in no hurry." She smiled back. Within minutes, they were deep in conversation, her body language open and engaged, her laughter genuine. I watched the entire interaction unfold, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of something I didn't want to admit, envy, because I had seen it happen before, and I had no idea how. Why do some older men seem to attract younger women effortlessly, while others, no matter how successful they are, remain completely invisible? It is a question that has haunted men for generations. It is not always about looks. It is not always about money. And it certainly is not because younger women are all looking for the same thing. The difference usually comes down to something much deeper, something many men never stop to consider. A surprising number of older men walk into every interaction already, assuming their age is a disadvantage. Before a conversation even begins, they have convinced themselves they are too old, too late, or competing with younger men who have already won the race. That belief quietly changes everything. It affects how they stand, how they speak, the risks they are willing to take, and even whether they introduce themselves at all. The truth is, confidence does not begin the moment you approach a woman. It begins long before she notices you. It begins in the quiet moments when you are alone, when you are deciding how you feel about yourself, when you are choosing whether to carry your age as a burden or as a badge of honor. And that choice, made over and over again, shapes the energy you project into the world. Here is what many men do not realize. Younger women are not all searching for younger men. They are searching for an experience. They notice how a man carries himself, how comfortable he is in his own skin, and whether he seems genuinely at peace with the life he has built. A man who is constantly apologizing for his age unknowingly communicates insecurity. But a man who accepts his age as part of his story communicates something far more attractive: certainty. There is a reason why women of all ages are drawn to men who have weathered storms and emerged intact. It is not about the years themselves, it is about what those years have produced. A younger man may have energy and novelty, but an older man has something that cannot be rushed. He has perspective. He has experience. He has learned what matters and what does not. And that quiet depth, that unshakable calm, is something that cannot be faked. Consider this practical scenario. You are at a social gathering, perhaps a friend's party or a casual networking event. A younger woman strikes up a conversation with you. She asks what you do, what you enjoy, what brings you here. The insecure man launches into a rehearsed monologue about his accomplishments, his travels, his impressive connections. He is trying to impress her with his resume. The confident man, by contrast, answers the question simply and then turns the conversation back to her. He is curious about her world. He does not need to prove anything because he already knows his own value. The difference is palpable. The first interaction feels like a sales pitch. The second feels like a genuine exchange between two human beings, and it is the second one that leaves her wanting more. This is why truly confident men rarely rush conversations. They listen without appearing distracted. They speak without constantly seeking agreement. They are interested without becoming overly invested after just a few minutes. That emotional balance communicates far more than expensive clothes or carefully rehearsed lines ever could. The moment a younger woman realizes she is speaking to a man who is not trying to force an outcome, the interaction begins to feel different. She does not feel like she is being sold a version of him. She is simply experiencing someone who is secure enough to let his personality speak for itself, and that is often where genuine attraction quietly begins. One quality that consistently separates attractive older men from those who struggle is not charisma or wealth. It is emotional steadiness. While many people assume excitement creates attraction, emotional stability often creates something much stronger: trust. And trust is what allows attraction to grow instead of fading after the first conversation. Imagine two men meeting the same younger woman. The first becomes overly enthusiastic within minutes. He interrupts her, laughs a little too hard at everything she says, and immediately starts imagining where the relationship might go. The second enjoys the conversation just as much, but he stays grounded. He is not trying to speed things up or create an instant connection. He is simply present. Which man feels more comfortable to be around? People are naturally drawn toward those who make them feel relaxed rather than pressured. A younger woman does not want to feel like she is carrying the responsibility of keeping a conversation alive or managing someone else's emotions. She wants to feel free to be herself without worrying that every word she says will be overanalyzed. This is where many older men unknowingly make a costly mistake. They mistake intensity for sincerity. They think showing overwhelming interest proves they are genuine. In reality, moving too quickly often creates the opposite effect. It can make the interaction feel heavy before any real connection has had a chance to develop. Men who quietly stand out understand that attraction is not built in a single afternoon. It is built through consistency. They do not chase every opportunity to impress. They allow curiosity to develop naturally, giving both people room to discover each other without unnecessary pressure. Another mistake many older men make is believing they need to compete with younger men on their terms. They try to dress like them, speak like them, or copy the latest trends, hoping it will make them seem more attractive. But the moment a man starts pretending to be someone he is not, he begins giving away the very quality that could have made him stand out in the first place. Confidence does not come from blending in. It comes from being completely comfortable with your own identity. Think about it for a moment. A younger woman already knows how younger men behave because she is surrounded by them every day. If an older man simply imitates that same energy, there is very little that makes him memorable. What often captures attention instead is meeting someone who has developed his own way of thinking, his own rhythm, and his own presence through years of experience. This does not mean becoming serious or acting like you have all the answers. It means embracing the person you have become instead of trying to erase him. There is something refreshing about talking to a man who is not constantly changing himself to fit every room he walks into. That kind of consistency quietly communicates self-respect. People naturally trust those who appear genuine. They may not agree with everything that person says, but they can sense authenticity. And authenticity is difficult to fake because it shows up in the smallest details: how someone laughs, how they tell stories, how they react when conversations do not go exactly as planned. One of the strongest qualities an older man can develop is something that rarely gets talked about: having a purpose that exists outside of dating. This is not about being constantly busy or pretending you do not have time for anyone. It is about building a life so meaningful that a relationship becomes an addition to it, not the center of it. Many men unknowingly reverse this order. The moment they become interested in a younger woman, everything else begins to fade into the background. Their hobbies disappear, their goals become less important, conversations with friends become less frequent. Without realizing it, they slowly make one person responsible for all of their happiness. That creates pressure. Healthy attraction grows best when two people bring full lives into a relationship, not when one person expects the other to complete an empty one. Have you ever met someone who spoke passionately about what they were building? Maybe it was a business, a career, volunteering, traveling, learning a new skill, or simply becoming a healthier version of themselves. Chances are their enthusiasm was contagious. Purpose has a unique way of changing the energy a person carries. It gives them direction, confidence, and something meaningful to wake up for each morning. Younger women often notice this long before a man realizes they are paying attention. They see someone who is not sitting around waiting for the next text message. They see someone whose identity does not rise and fall based on another person's attention. That emotional independence is reassuring because it shows he knows how to create fulfillment on his own. There is another reason some older men naturally attract younger women, and it has very little to do with appearance. It is the way they communicate. Not just the words they choose, but how they make another person feel during a conversation. Many men believe attraction comes from saying the perfect thing. They spend so much time thinking about clever responses that they forget the most important part of communication, paying attention. When a conversation becomes a performance, genuine connection almost always suffers. People remember how you make them feel far longer than they remember exactly what you said. Think about the last time you spoke with someone who was completely present. They were not checking their phone every few minutes. They were not waiting impatiently for their turn to speak. They listened carefully, asked thoughtful questions, and responded with genuine curiosity. You probably left that conversation feeling respected, even if it only lasted a few minutes. That kind of attention has become surprisingly rare. Many younger women are used to conversations that feel rushed or distracted. They are often speaking with people who are more interested in impressing them than understanding them. When an older man slows the conversation down and actually listens, he creates a completely different experience. But listening does not mean agreeing with everything she says. Confident men are not afraid to have their own opinions. They can respectfully disagree without turning a conversation into an argument or feeling the need to win. That emotional maturity makes discussions feel safe rather than stressful. Perhaps most importantly, they are not desperate to fill every moment of silence. They are comfortable allowing conversations to breathe because they are not measuring their worth by every second of interaction. That calm presence communicates confidence in a way loud personalities rarely can. In the end, meaningful conversations are not built on perfect lines. They are built on genuine interest, emotional awareness, and the ability to make another person feel heard. Those qualities do not simply make a man more attractive. They make him someone people genuinely enjoy spending time with. Another quality that quietly sets certain older men apart is their ability to remain emotionally grounded when things do not go exactly as they expected. Many men assume attraction is lost the moment a woman takes longer to reply, cancels a date, or seems a little distant. They immediately begin overthinking every conversation, searching for mistakes that may not even exist. But emotionally mature men respond differently. They understand that people have responsibilities, changing emotions, busy schedules, and personal challenges that often have nothing to do with them. Instead of jumping to conclusions, they give situations room to breathe. That patience communicates confidence because it shows they are not controlled by uncertainty. One of the fastest ways to weaken attraction is by constantly seeking reassurance. Repeatedly asking where you stand, questioning every small change in behavior, or needing continuous confirmation that someone still likes you can slowly turn natural conversations into emotional work. Even when those questions come from a sincere place, they often reveal fear instead of confidence. Confident men do not ignore problems when they arise, but they also do not create problems where none exist. This does not mean becoming cold or pretending not to care. It simply means learning the difference between responding thoughtfully and reacting emotionally. When something genuinely needs to be discussed, they address it calmly instead of letting anxiety make decisions for them. This emotional steadiness creates a feeling of security. A younger woman knows she does not have to constantly manage his emotions or reassure him after every small misunderstanding. She can simply enjoy getting to know him without feeling responsible for keeping his confidence intact. Ironically, the men who appear strongest are not those who never experience doubt. They are the ones who refuse to let temporary emotions control their actions. They understand that attraction is not built through constant reassurance. It is built through consistency, patience, and quiet self-confidence. Those qualities take time to develop, but once they become part of a man's character, they influence every relationship he builds, not just his romantic ones. Perhaps the greatest advantage many older men have is one they often overlook completely: the the wisdom that comes from experience. The problem is that some men carry their experiences as heavy baggage, while others carry them as quiet confidence. The difference between the two is what people notice almost immediately. Life has probably taught you lessons that no book ever could. You have experienced success and failure. You have made decisions you were proud of and others you wish you could change. You have learned what matters and what does not. Those experiences can either make you bitter or make you wiser. People are naturally drawn to wisdom, but they are often pushed away by bitterness. There is a noticeable difference between a man who constantly complains about his past relationships and one who has learned from them without letting them define him. The first carries unresolved frustration into every new connection. The second carries perspective. One blames, the other understands. Younger women are often paying attention to this, even if they never mention it directly. They notice whether a man speaks respectfully about people from his past. They notice whether he approaches life with curiosity or with resentment. They notice whether he has become more patient over the years or simply more cynical. Emotionally mature men do not feel the need to prove that they have seen everything or know everything. In fact, one of the signs of real confidence is the willingness to keep learning. They ask questions, remain open to new ideas, and understand that growth does not stop simply because they have reached a certain age. That mindset is refreshing because it creates balance. Experience gives them stability, while humility keeps them approachable. Together, those qualities create a presence that feels both reassuring and genuine. Let me share with you a story that encapsulates everything we have been discussing. A few years ago, I met a man named Robert. Robert was in his late 50s, a retired architect who had spent most of his adult life designing buildings that would outlast him. He had been married for 30 years, lost his wife to cancer, and spent the next 5 years figuring out who he was without her. He told me that for the first 2 years after her death, he felt like a ghost. He went through the motions of life, but he was not really living. He was just existing, waiting for something to change. And then one day, he decided to stop waiting. He started traveling. He took up painting, something he had always wanted to do but never had time for. He joined a hiking group. He started cooking elaborate meals for himself. He stopped apologizing for being alone and started enjoying his own company. And then, something unexpected happened. He met a woman named Elena. She was 34, a graphic designer with a laugh that could fill a room. She was intelligent, ambitious, and fiercely independent. Robert told me that when he first saw her, he felt the familiar pang of insecurity. He thought, "She is too young. She is too vibrant. She will never look at me twice." But instead of retreating, he did something different. He walked up to her, introduced himself, and asked her about the book she was reading. Not because he was trying to impress her, but because he was genuinely curious. They talked for hours that night. And then they talked for hours the next night, and the night after that. When I asked Robert what he thought made the difference, he said something I have never forgotten. "I stopped trying to be the man I thought she wanted, and I started being the man I actually am. I didn't pretend to be younger. I didn't pretend to be cooler. I just showed up as myself." And apparently, that was enough. Robert's story is a powerful reminder that the secret to attracting younger women is not about trying to become a younger man. It is about becoming the strongest, most grounded version of the man you already are. Throughout this discussion, we have seen that genuine attraction rarely begins with expensive clothes, perfect looks, or carefully rehearsed lines. It grows from something much deeper. It comes from confidence that is not dependent on approval, emotional stability that does not disappear when life becomes uncertain, and a sense of purpose that exists whether someone is in your life or not. When a man values his time, he teaches other people to value it, too. When he listens instead of trying to impress, conversations become meaningful instead of exhausting. When he responds with patience instead of panic, he creates emotional safety. And when he embraces his years with quiet confidence instead of apologizing for them, he begins to stand out for all the right reasons. The reality is that not every younger woman will be attracted to an older man, and that is perfectly normal. Attraction has never been about appealing to everyone. It is about becoming the kind of person who naturally connects with those who appreciate your character, your maturity, and the life you have built. So rather than asking yourself, "How can I make younger women like me?" try asking a different question. Am I becoming a man I genuinely respect? Because the answer to that question influences every relationship you will ever have. The men who leave the strongest impression are not chasing attention. They are building meaningful lives, protecting their peace, continuing to grow, and treating others with confidence and respect. Ironically, those are often the very men who attract people without making attraction their primary goal. The philosopher Epictetus, one of the great Stoics, taught that we should not seek to have events happen as we wish, but to wish them to happen as they do happen. When a man accepts his age and all that comes with it, he aligns himself with reality. He stops fighting against the current and starts flowing with it. And that flow, that ease, is what women sense and respond to. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man's worth is no greater than his ambitions. When a man's ambition is to be genuine, to be present, to be whole, his worth becomes immeasurable, and others will feel it. They will sense that he is someone who cannot be easily shaken. And that sense of stability is deeply attractive. The philosopher Seneca, another great Stoic, wrote that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. When a man wastes his energy trying to be someone he is not, he is wasting the very thing that makes him unique. He is trading his authenticity for a performance, and performances are always exhausting to maintain. But when a man embraces his years with quiet confidence instead of apologizing for them, he begins to stand out for all the right reasons. The psychologist Carl Jung once observed that life really does begin at 40. Up until then, you are just doing research. The first 40 years of life are like a research phase, a time of learning, making mistakes, building careers, and forming relationships. It is a period filled with trial and error, where individuals are still figuring out who they are and what they truly want. Jung believed that real personal growth, what he called individuation, begins later. This is when people start to understand their true identity, separate from social roles or external pressures. After 40, many individuals gain clarity, confidence, and a stronger sense of self, allowing them to make decisions that are more aligned with their inner values. This stage of life is less about chasing approval and more about understanding purpose. It is where people begin to question what truly matters and start making choices that reflect their authentic selves. In this sense, turning 40 is not an ending, it is a beginning. The experiences, lessons, and wisdom accumulated over the years become the foundation upon which a truly meaningful life is built. This is the gift of age. This is the secret that the man at the rooftop bar understood intuitively. He was not trying to be younger. He was not trying to impress. He was simply being himself, fully and completely. And that, more than anything, was what made him irresistible. If you found today's video valuable, let me know in the comments. Which of these lessons do you think most men overlook? I would genuinely love to hear your perspective and join the conversation. And if you enjoy exploring the psychology behind attraction, relationships, and human behavior, do not forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thank you for spending your time with me today. I will see you in the next video.